Welcome to the center of light. Again, this is what we all should want to become, is that. Clear of mind. The world's in a hell of a predicament because of the lack of clarity. So when we become clear and the light that lives in everyone begins to shine, that begins to happen. There is nothing else. There is no other path that you need. There are many paths, but ultimately, that's it. And guess what else?
Access granted.
Everyone has access.
Go where no man has gone before.
And my guest tonight has been there. My guest tonight is David Ditchfield. And we're going to be speaking about his book and his experience, Shine On. I'm excited. I dabbled in this arena, as many people do. But I'm wanting, in fact, I asked David to not give me too much information in the radio green room. I just want to go at this organic and very raw because I want to take in this experience. So welcome to Center of Light, everyone. My name is Keith Anthony Blanchard, your host. I am going to grab these links really quick so you can find more about what I am doing as well as my guest tonight, Mr. David Ditchfield. Good to see. Let's see. Let me grab these links and we have them here. Everyone on YouTube, you know how to find me. It won't allow me this much text. Good to see you. Welcome to Center of Light on this beautiful night. It's a sacred night. Every night is sacred, even in quarantine. There's no such thing as quarantine. There's no such thing as quarantine. You are a liberated, divine human soul playing in the playground. New book coming out July 31st, 2020. Crossing the Bridge to the Soul. Going from the world of old that's dead. It's just gone. You can hold on to it. And the whirlpool that goes this way will pull you down with the current. Are you current, present, in this moment with yourself? So that we get out of fake news into the most amazing, beautiful news, which is this life that you call you when you look in the mirror. Can it get any possibly any clearer than that? What is this on my head? Is that a spider? It's good to see. Welcome to Center of Light. Let me tell you about my guest tonight. We're going to get down to some Center of Light. Beeswax. My friend I just met, thanks to Gavin Lee Davies, who got me my book deal with 6 books. Hello, Linda. Hello, Katarina. Hello, everyone. When I do interviews, it's not that I don't pay attention to you. We may open up the lines, so to speak, here, and you can ask your questions. Don't be lengthy if you don't mind. But I really pay attention to my guests versus a one-on-one presentation that I do as a teacher. Excuse me. Let me tell you about my guest tonight. This is astonishing. All capital letters, triple exclamation point. And in fact, I even have it in bold print. Let me tell you about David. Let me make sure all my software is that I'm on top. I bought me a new chair today, y'all. The other one was going... It was driving me bonkers. All right, without any further ado, David Ditchfield is a near-death experience NDE-inspired artist, composer, and author. David, I don't know if you know this, but I am a full-time musician. That is my profession. And I love that you're playing music, bro. Or creating it, yeah, for sure. He wants to use his near-death experience to make a positive difference to people's lives. In 2006, he was... Oh my God. He was dragged under a speeding train in a freak accident. As the surgeons fought to save him, he had a profound near-death experience. Excuse me, again, please. When he woke up in the hospital, he had acquired, listen to this is ridiculously amazing. When he woke up in the hospital, he had acquired astonishing new abilities. He found he could paint dramatic paintings of what he had seen in the afterlife, far beyond any artistic ability he had had before. When he then discovered he could compose classical music, having never received any training. To this day, he cannot read or write a single note of musical notation, and yet his debut near-death experience inspired symphony The Divine Light, oh my God, that is so me, was premiered at a sellout orchestral concert to a standing ovation. He has since composed further classical works, which have also been premiered at sellout concerts and completed over 40 paintings. He lives, paints, and composes in a converted riverside mill near Cambridge and the UK. Everyone, if you would, welcome our brand new friend, Cosmic Brother. What's up, my man?
Hey, hello.
How
Thanks
are
for
you,
that
bro?
beautiful introduction. That was great.
Yeah, man. I've interviewed, lots of people, scientists, doctors, this healer, that healer, this UFO nut, this UFO nut. God realized men from India, but I've never interviewed a near-deather. How's that?
Ah, okay. Right.
You doing well, sir?
I'm good, thanks, yeah. And
Yeah,
yourself? You sound well?
I'm doing good. I'm just having a ball of fun. And so I'm sure someone of your experience, stature, if you will, is living very well in this not lockdown, but this lock in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's, yeah, obviously there's a negative to it all, but we're losing people. But at the same time, there's a positive. I think we're all sort of like getting that moment to sort of like kind of recharge, if you like, and I don't know. Just all these people are creating over here and doing things they never did before. They've got time to stop. The world's actually just kind of halted, doesn't it? And everyone's just kind of going, "Wow, I'm going to start baking bread again."
I
So it's
love that. I really support that beautiful truth, reality. And many of us have seen it. Like in Italy, I believe it was, people are coming out on the balconies and playing instruments to each other.
exactly.
And you
Yeah.
have no choice. We have no choice now, but except to do what we love, because if we don't, we're going to go batshit crazy. And so the world gets to breathe. Mother Earth gets to breathe. The skies are getting clearer. The dolphins are returning, so forth and so on.
I know. It's amazing.
It's just so overdue. We needed it. We need it. That's what we've been longing for. Would you say?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, we were heading for something. Let's face it. It could have been a lot worse. It could have been an ice age or something really dramatic. But we've been given a chance here to actually turn around and say, look, we're right at the edge of the cliff now. Let's try and regroup, which we have been. I mean, certainly over here, there's been a real sense of community and people just coming together. And we all have this thing every Thursday evening, 8 o'clock, bang on 8 o'clock. But we all stand on our balconies or our doorsteps, and we bang our tins and cans and everything and cheer to all the nurses and emergency staff, people cleaning the streets, stacking the shelves in supermarkets. We're applauding them all. So it's really beautiful to see. Yeah.
Speaking of the edge, we brought ourselves to the edge of the cliff. My friend, you went to the edge and fell into the cosmic nothing, which is everything. How do you want to start off, my friend? I love the fact that I'm just going to sit back and allow you to tell this beautiful story, experience, truth, reality of a place that we all deserve something so beautiful. Not everybody wants to be dragged under a train. Tell us about this experience that you had, my friend.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I'll start off with the actual accident, if you like. It's probably the best place to go in. Um, I'd been living in London at that point, and I went to stay at my sister's who lived in Cambridge, with her family, for a few days just to chill out. I needed to sort of get away. I was going through hard times at that point. I'd hit rock bottom in my life. So she said, "Come and stay with us." So I did. So I ended up staying a few weeks, and a friend that I just met came up to visit from London, and we had a great time spending a few days chilling. And then it was time for her to get the train back home to London. So I took her to the rail station, and as the train pulled in, I helped her on with her bags onto the carriage, and gave her a hug and a kiss to say goodbye. And at that point, I could hear the emergency buzzers going, for the automatic doors to close. So she said, "Hey, you better get off." I said, "Yeah, I'm going. Don't worry." I just stepped back, and as I did, it was a cold sort of February day, and I was wearing like this very kind of like a quality sheepskin coat, so it's quite thick, and it was like a three-quarter length coat, and the bottom corner just got trapped in the closing doors. Um, Now, I figured I'd be able to just release it from the doors, or the doors themselves would open, but nothing happened. So I just kept tugging at this coat, and I thought this isn't going to come out. So I turned around and started shouting for help, and there was no guard or anything on the rail platform at all that day. And in fact, there was only just one other guy stood behind me who was seeing off his partner. Um, so there was like two emergency buttons that you see on either side of the doors, and so I started whacking those really hard, and nothing happened there, and banging on the glass, shouting, and all I could see was my friend Anna, who was just stood there staring right back at me with this absolute look of horror on her face because she knew that the engines were just kind of starting to rev up, and the train was going to start pulling out, and we just looked at each other as if to say, I'm trapped. There's nothing I can do. So the train just started pulling out the station and picked up tremendous speed. You don't realize this until you're actually on the outside of a train itself and attached to it, just how fast they pull out of stations. And I could hear all the gears shifting, if you like, and I got dragged along the platform. I lost my footing basically and got dragged along. And it was interesting because I remember just thinking about it. I mean, because I was just like, at that point, I figured that the coat wasn't going to get released because the weight of my body was still pulling me along. I thought, no, I'm going to go under. I'm going to die. I thought this is the moment of death, So I just decided I've got one last chance, and that was this. For some reason, this news footage came into my head that I'd seen sort of about 3 or 4 weeks ago on the TV, where they'd thrown like a small child or a young infant from a three-story tower block in a fire, and that child survived without any injuries. And they said that's because children and infants are relaxed. We get tenser as the older we get. So I thought that's my only chance is to relax. So that's exactly what I did. And then eventually I got pulled between the actual space of the platform edge and, the train itself. And as it was nearing the edge of the end of the platform, and got pulled under. And then it was like I remember that was like kind of not slow motion, but I remember seeing it all happen as if it was happening in minutes rather than seconds. And I just remember seeing like the side of the carriage doors that I'd been looking at my friend just disappearing into the sky almost. Then I went down into this kind of very dark sort of like going into into hell basically, and I just got thrown into like this complete sort of mess. It was just like I was being tossed around like a rag doll from side to side, bouncing off the wall, bouncing off all over
Did you
the
feel
place.
anything?
Well, you know what? It was all happening so fast, and the shock was just out of I couldn't even stop to think about pain basically because everything was going so fast. So I don't know. I was totally conscious throughout the whole thing, and I guess at that stage, I was just in survival mode, So I was just thinking, I've got to survive, I've got to survive, and then I just hit the ground suddenly, and I found myself lying in between the track, and the train was still going on because it was quite a long train, and it was going at tremendous speed, and the sound of the rattling over my head, and the smell of the oil, and as I lay down in the track was just really horrific. And
So in this experience, David, you were hyper aware. One, of course, you weren't aware of the pain because so much going on, but you
Yeah.
had an opening, or did you have
How
an
do you mean an
opening?
opening?
An opening meaning you were so aware. One, you said what triggered me in that question was the fact that you could smell the oil and the axle and the grease and just all
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting, yeah, because the whole thing. when the rail police actually did their inquiries, the whole thing took 7.5 seconds from the point of the train pulling out and me going under, and it felt more like 7.5 minutes. And it's interesting how I had time to process in my mind what I was going to do. Because I remember another thing. Then, as I lay down on the track, I thought it's still not over yet. A piece of the undercarriage could just come and whack me over the head, and that would be it. So I remember thinking of all these sort of like Indiana Jones movies, or James Bond 007. I thought in that situation they would lie down flat, keep your arms out or whatever, keep your head down. So that's what I did, and kept my nose literally in the gravel. But thankfully the train eventually went and disappeared from view, and yeah. So that was it, and I was lying there in complete. Yeah, by then, I was in agony then and in shock, but also couldn't believe that I'd survived it. I was alive. Yeah.
David, recently, last year, June 21st, a friend of mine and I, we had just dropped my son off from coming from South Louisiana to see my father. We had just dropped him off, and we were taking one of the final exits onto the interstate, ramps onto the interstate, which we were 5, 6, whatever minutes from our destination, back to Memphis. And some knucklehead comes sliding behind us at God knows what kind of speed, spins the car into this thing. We hit the center wall, and we go do this barrel roll 3 times, and we landed.
Yeah,
and the shock that I felt after it all, even for days, and still to this moment, because now when I drive, I'm hypersensitive, but I'm so aware, hyper aware that, Keith, why are you doing this? Awareness is phenomenal, but you're doing this from a reactionary standpoint. Find yourself. So I can only imagine, bro, the level of shock. I'm sure it lingered very long after, or does it still linger?
Oh yeah. Oh, it's still there. Yeah, okay, totally. Yeah. So it took an awful lot of time to get over it. Yeah, and some therapy as well. I was fine at first. I didn't want any because obviously, which I'll go into later, talking about my near-death experience. Because that had happened when I was recovering in hospital. I was kind of in such a great state of mind that the therapist came in to see me, thinking straight away that I'd need help. And I remember he thought, you seem in pretty good shape mentally, considering what you've just been through. But but the physical and mental shock kicked in later, probably about 6 months later. And apparently that's quite normal as well. If you've been through something like a really horrific thing like that, it can sometimes take a while for it's like an aftershock, and it happens. Well, post-traumatic stress disorder basically is what it is. And so that happened to me, most certainly. And it's totally changed. I was a lot more sort of like happy-go-lucky before all this happened. A lot lighter on my feet, if you like.
Let me ask you this question, my friend. It just came to heart, not mine, but heart. Not that it's important, but just because of this dialogue. Were you a religious, spiritual, faithful man? And whether you were or not, but I mean, did you have some sort of faith before? And
no, I didn't do. No, that's the interesting thing, that I had no faith at all. Actually, I just kind of, my life was kind of like, as I say, I was living in London. I'd left school without any qualifications, and so it was very hard for me to find work. And I was picking up work, doing lots of, mainly sort of labouring sort of work, sort of blue collar work, which was great, but I wasn't actually that good at it. So I was struggling to find work. But so it was, for me, it was just trying to sort of like fix every situation in the best way possible. So faith never came into my head. It was just like living by the day and looking for the next moment, as it were. London's a very sort of quite a hedonistic sort of city as well. So it was all keeping up with that kind of pace. And so there was no faith really. I wish I had. It would have helped me an awful lot.
So you were just the average Joe, the average next door neighbor, just living their life, maybe somewhat believing in the possibility of a greater goodness after this. whatever we want to call this thing as life. And that's how pretty much you live your life until said experience. So please continue. I'm really enjoying just sitting back and listening, bro. Really.
Yeah, yeah. As I say, it didn't the faith didn't really come into my head. It was literally living the life, and any time there was things went wrong, I just tried to fix it with a band-aid, if you like. Do you know what I mean? I didn't really deal with the situation. I just I was drinking heavily as well, and so I think that was my fix for trying to fix situations when they were going wrong, which obviously
What
was
was your
not good.
drink? What was your drink?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Mine's
Oh
tequila.
God, I don't. Yours tequila? Oh no, no. Well, it was either beer in the bars, sort of because that's pretty much where I'd find a lot of my work. The bars were like sort of the office, if you like, because that's where you go and mix with people and try and hustle for work. That's where all the guys who were the site owners or what have you, the site managers, and you go, hey, you got any work going and stuff. So it turned into like you'd finish each day of work, and then you'd end up in the bars, and you'd end up going home, and then getting some takeaway and then go to bed and then go to work. So it was a bit like that, yeah. So and spirit wise, vodka, yeah, vodka was my my sin. But there you go. But that was then.
So please continue. Please let's go
Yeah.
through this beautiful idea, dude. So I used to be many years ago. It's been years. I've been through, like you and many of us. I've been through so many different fields of spirituality. But I remember Raymond Moody, and he supported and quote patted you on your back and approved your work. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, yeah,
delicious.
yeah. That was
Please continue,
that was
sir.
amazing. Yeah, that was great. Basically, what happened was uh, just after I'd had my near-death experience, which I'll tell you about shortly, the very first painting that I did. I just thought I knew nothing about near-death experiences. I'd never heard of them before, and that was another thing. You see, I'd had it, and I've never heard of near-death experience. So I went online, of course, just trying to find out more about what had happened because I was just curious to know. Well, more than curious, I just was really trying to find out what was going on here, and I came across his name, and so I didn't know just how big he was, or that he coined the phrase near-death experience, and so I just sent an
I
email
didn't know
to him.
that. That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He coined the phrase because he started researching like not back in the '60s.
Isn't he
And
like a simple redneck kind of a guy from like Alabama or Mississippi or one of these? Isn't he one of those kind of cats that has a southernness to him?
he does. You're right. He does have a southernness to his accent. Yeah, but I'm not sure of his actual background. But I know that he's Dr. Raymond Moody now, which looks lovely on my book cover. And yeah, so that was great. I just by chance I emailed him my first painting that I did because I just thought, well, this guy's done research into what I thought had just happened to me, and I said, look, this just happened. What do you think? And he got back pretty soon afterwards and said, great painting, brilliant, and was very fascinated by it, what had happened. And I thought nothing of it and left it at that. And then as I started writing my book, which is more recent, I thought I'd get in touch with him again and see if he'd be interested in reading it. And I emailed once more, but I didn't hear anything. And then like a couple of months later, his manager got back and said, I've just seen your email here and I've looked at your website and your paintings are amazing. Raymond's going to love this. So she said, I'm going to get it straight to him. He gets so much stuff come in. He's obviously just missed it. So basically that's what happened. He read the book and he loved it. He was just like straight in there. He read it very fast as well, which is brilliant. And so she said, look, Raymond's happy to do an endorsement on the book, and I was going, wow, that's fantastic. And then within hours, she got back again and said, look, he actually wants to write the foreword. So I was going, what?
Wow, right,
I
right.
know.
And that is in and of itself a very beautiful validation. A very
It's incredible.
soft-spoken validation about everything. David, since we're slowly but surely moving towards that experience, would you like to start off with those pictures that you sent me? Everyone, welcome to Center of Light. My name is Keith Anthony Blanchard. Tonight I'm interviewing David Ditchfield, and we're speaking about Shine On, I think it's a new book, about his experience of being dragged under a train and crossed to the other side. Would you like to start off with those pictures as a segue? Because a couple of them look like wormholes, black holes moving through the tunnel and so forth. How would you like to do that, sir?
Um, I guess really, if you don't, if you're happy with it, shall I talk you through the experience first? Is that okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yes. I
Because
trust
then
your
I can
interest.
tell you, then I can talk about the paintings, in reflection to it. So, um, uh, I'll take it from the paramedics turning up and getting me off the rail track and onto a stretcher, and somehow I don't know how they did it, getting me up onto the platform, which is about 6 foot up, and then finally into hospital. So they raced me down the highway, and we got into the hospital, and I remember arriving into the emergency department there, and there's like this kind of semicircle of people, like a team of doctors all waiting for me. They'd been told I was coming in, obviously, and so we got there, and there was like all these people sort of racing around. There was a lot of chaos and noise, and they were frantically trying to save me. I was losing copious amounts of blood at this point, I remember, and my family had arrived at the hospital. I don't know how that happened, but they were there really quick, and so I remember they came in and they were stood around me, and then my mother was in tears, and it was all very emotional, and there was a lot of high emotion going on all around. And then as I lay there, I remember looking up and listening to the sound, and I just thought, God, this is just so. By then, it was just overwhelming me, and I suddenly went from that high intensity of the hospital and the franticness of it all to what I can only describe as this beautiful, warm, dark place. I just left my body, and I thought initially that it was just like in a darkened room, and I was lay there, and I looked around. There was silence, and I looked, and I could see like these pulsating colours, like orbs, just kind of surrounding me, that were just floating around. And I just looked at them, and they were just calming me, just looking at these orbs, just slowly pulsating. And I looked, and I realised that I was no longer on a stretcher or anything like that. I was laid on what I can only describe as like a big slate rock. It was like a big medieval altar, and I was laid out on this thing. And you'd think that would be very uncomfortable, but it wasn't. It was just the most comfortable place to be. And I lay there, and then I looked down, and just as I looked, I could see I was covered in this blue sheet, like a blue satin sheet, I remember, which felt really comforting. It was very cool. And as I looked at this sheet, I felt the presence of something very near to me. And I looked, and just at my feet, there was this being of light, like an androgynous being, so neither male or female form, but with this most beautiful sort of like white blonde hair, and like this kind of like skin that was just glowing, and these eyes that were just smiling at me, and this kind of an expression of knowingness and comfort, and this being was like, I felt like I'd known the androgynous being for the whole of my life, and beyond that, it was like a
Wow,
soulmate.
wow, 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 wow. Please continue. Wow.
Yeah, no, thanks. So it's yeah. So I thought, who is this person? Who are you? And I just thought, well, this person's obviously something that's a very strong connection to me, something that knows me inside out and is also protecting me at this point. And I thought at that point I died. I thought, this is it. I've died, and this is the next stage. And I was more than happy to be there. There was no sense of, I've died. No, I don't want. I'm dead. There was no sense of that. It was just like, wow, this is beautiful. let me just stay here, And so that's exactly what I did. I just laid my head back at that point. And as I laid my head back, I suddenly looked up and there was like three grids of white light were like sort of coming close towards me. And as I looked into this white light, I couldn't take my gaze away. And it was such an intense, pure white light that normally you wouldn't be able to look at it. Like if it was electric light or if it was sunlight, even, there's no way you could look into something so intense. But with this light, you could.
Oh my God, dude, this is so freaking delicious. And what you came to heart was the divine light, your composition. Please continue. I'm just
Yeah.
living in this moment and expressing myself, and
Right. Thanks for
I'm actually allowing myself to play in your arena for a while.
Go for it. That's great. So, the energy that was coming from this light was again. I felt like it felt like it was healing me, and that's why I couldn't take my gaze away. And I just wanted to. It was like hypnotic, and I just kept looking into this white light. And at that point, I suddenly felt the presence of somebody else had suddenly arrived, and so I looked, and either side of me there were two female forms. And they got their hands just kind of hovering over my body very slowly. One of them was kind of like a white Caucasian sort of look about her, and the other one was Asian or American Indian sort of look about her. Very that kind of mix of that. And both of them were just like, it was almost like a form of Reiki healing, if you like, and their hands were just slowly hovering over my body. But the sensation that was coming from their hands was just so powerful. It just felt like this kind of like an energy, like of love that was just kind of like coming through their hands, and I could feel it almost vibrating through every molecule of my body, and it was just an overwhelming feeling, and it was just tremendous.
David, was there any sense of time, or in fact, your consciousness was probably not even interested in that idea in the first place?
Exactly.
Did you feel that this was all transpiring in a matter of no time, or did you feel like you were there for a while? And please continue after if you would.
Yeah, it's a bit of both. I felt like I was there for a while, but time didn't feel sort of. I wasn't thinking about it, and so I couldn't kind of say, "Oh yeah, this." Then 5 minutes later, this happened. I mean, it's odd because it was completely another dimension, but it was as real as you and I are sat here talking as well. So it's very odd. That's the one thing about near-death experiences is other people have said the same thing, that it's real, and it's definitely not a dream or an illusion, but it's a different type of dimension. So you just kind of like, it's like you lose all sense of worrying about time. In fact, you lose all sense of. I mean, before I had my NDE, right, I used to suffer from very high anxiety and guilt and all those different things. And all those things were constantly rushing through my head, feeling like I was a failure. And it was all like, oh, what's happening now? I should be doing this and all those kind of things. All that went. I was just totally chilled and relaxed. So, of course, I wasn't thinking about things like time. You just don't. They don't enter into your head. Yeah. So it's a very strange thing that the time element doesn't come into it. So yeah. So anyway, I laid back and I was going back to the guilt thing. There you go. As I laid back again, I was enjoying all this beautiful love that was coming through, and I suddenly started thinking about my family, because I knew how distressed I'd seen them in hospital, and I figured, well, they're going to be really distressed now because I'm dead. Clearly, they're going to be looking over my dead body, and it's going to be horrific for them. But I figured, right, I'm going to look over and see if I can see them. But I wasn't feeling a sense of urgency, like, oh my goodness, my family, none of that was there. I was just totally relaxed and thought, oh, okay, let's see if I can see them. So I thought I'd edge my way over to look over this huge slate that I was lying on, and thought I might see them. But as I looked over my left-hand shoulder and looked down, I didn't see them at all. But what I did see was this most amazing sight, and it was like a huge waterfall of stars. It was like a massive arc of circle of stars. It was just like cascading down and like
A
shooting stars.
waterfall of stars.
Yeah, it really was. It's the best way to describe it. I've looked at waterfalls on Earth since, and every time I see them, I think that's it. But visualize that. But instead, there were stars, and they were just cascading over the edge and just going down. And I looked down. I went, "Wow, look at that!" And it was like huge, and it was just like looking down. And I was like, the further I looked down, I kept seeing like other sort of galaxies, and it was going into infinity, into beautiful colors. And it's interesting as well because the Hubble have been releasing some new photographs of new parts of the universe that they discovered through their telescope. And
David, I have not died, but I have been born, and I have memories of that very place that I'm assuming, because I'm linking up with you, is that very place, that spiritual lobby, if you will,
yeah,
that waiting place. Many, many years ago, I had a total recall of what it was like to be born, at least this experience, which I'm sure because there's no time, what it's like to be born, period, rather, exclamation point, which was, I was in this waiting place, patiently waiting place. There was time, but there was no time. And I'm in queue, and everyone in front of me is basically going, quote, down to the earth to be incarnated. And as I am hyper aware in this experience, I can feel the machine, so to speak. The machine operated simply by the excitement of the souls that were about to be incarnated upon the earth. That was the whole engine and the combustion of what made the whole thing work.
Fantastic.
Did you feel somewhat that idea, like this is the place where things begin to happen in a very serious, conscious way?
Absolutely. That's so interesting that you say that because I felt like I was being prepared for something. I felt that that there was what's going on here. This is a stage that, this isn't just it. You don't just die and go here. It felt like with these female forms kind of with their hands over me and the other being of light stood there watching over me, I felt like I was being prepared for something. And it was like a waiting area, if you like, as you just put it. So very similar. So that's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. So there's definitely a sense of that. And yeah. So
Dude, I'm just sitting here with my jaw dropped. Not well, yeah, because of the shock and awe and the dramatic effect that you're bringing to this station, this place, that we can all just sit here and learn something. And you see, it's not about the words you're using; it's about where you're coming from inside. And I have no doubt whatsoever that you have this experience. So when people share something to this magnitude with me, if you say I was jogging yesterday on the road and I found this magnanimous thing we call God under a rock, I'm not going to go look because I don't believe you. I want that very freaking thing for myself. Yeah. So when this began to happen, my friend, as this begins to unfold, I'm sure you felt some sort of true spiritual, obviously, liberation. Did you feel any of the dogmatic stuff, or it just didn't simply exist for you? Like, if I did this thing a few years ago, not as the way I did it, I might be in some... Did you feel a sense of hell, is what I'm asking, basically, right to the point?
A sense of hell? How do you mean? When I was...
The dogmatic place where bad people go. Or that was just simply not in the design. Now, how did your intuition feel?
That didn't come into it at all. There was no sense of like that there was any judgment, if that's what you mean. I didn't feel like I was at a point of judgment, and it could go either way. It just felt like my life up until that point had actually been pretty much hell on earth, as it were, and that I'd suddenly come to a place that just all made sense, and it was really teaching me, and it's still teaching me now, that I'd gone through my whole life lacking self-love and self-worth, and it was teaching me that there was so much love waiting for me on the other side, and it was giving me all this love. As I say, when I was getting these girls with their hands going over my body and all this sensation that was coming through, it was unconditional love. It was like all the kinds of love that you experience from either your lover, your mother, your pet dog, or what have you, all encompassed into one. It was just like coming in, like mainlining through me, this sensation of love. And it's well, I mean, the next thing that did happen would clarify it a bit more for you, actually, in that sense, the positivity of it all, because as I turned my head back over from this waterfall of stars, even though it was very hard to stop looking at it, I suddenly felt like this energy had turned up, like a big dial had gone up, and it was surging up very high at this point. And I looked, and I could see what I can only describe as like a tunnel of white light that was coming very slowly towards me. Now, this tunnel of light was surrounded by like flames of yellows and reds and oranges, but they were very dramatic flames, but they weren't at all frightening. They were just really beautiful to look at and very powerful. And as this light came towards me, I could feel the intensity was just so strong. And I just figured this was the source of all creation. I thought, this is God, This is like, not the guy in the sky with a beard that we see Michelangelo painted on the Vatican ceiling. This is like, it's just this ball of fire surrounding this pure white light, and this is the source of all creation. And that was all very positive, and it was really beautiful and profound. So, and it was at that point that I remember laying my head back and laughing to myself, because this was just so beautiful and tremendous. And then I suddenly came crashing back to earth, and I was back in the hospital, and I was back into the reality of it all. All the pain came rushing straight back into my body, and
Welcome to Earth.
yeah, welcome back to earth, yeah, with a bang, and it was just. It was the noise was just like it was like being thrown straight into a busy shopping mall,
I thank you very much. I want to say thank you sincerely for using the word noise, because it's a word I use and I will throw it out like candy, because the world that we live in is absolutely quite beautiful. More beautiful when we become silent. You, my bro, had the opportunity to go to the silence. And I've always said, beyond, suddenly through the silence, the new world appears.
Yeah.
You were thrown into the silence where everything is so, it's busy, to use the word, it's rich, it's truly alive. But what we call being alive here, when you came back into this body, being alive here is not like being alive there, because it's so simply just noisy. And noisy doesn't mean with the ears. Noisy means it's just so chaotic and yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, busyness. Yeah, and it certainly is. So, and we're all concerned about time, as we say earlier. We're all concerned about everything, and that's the first thing that struck me, was this kind of, everyone seemed really kind of frantic, and it was just like, oh, calm down, okay, it's all right. I'm still alive. I'm not going to die. But but the interesting thing was, most people say to me, oh, that must have been horrible when you came back. You must have been so, why have you sent me back? But interestingly enough, I wasn't, because I was just so charged with all this fantastic love and where I'd been, that I couldn't wait to tell everyone. I remember they were just about to wheel me into theatre to operate on me. And so my friend Anna, who I'd been seeing off at the train station, she came over to me, and I spoke to her. And I said, Anna, I've got to tell you something. Something amazing has just happened. And she said, not now. You can tell me later. Obviously she thought, just calm down. I was like, no, this is really important. But so it was very surreal, because I remember I went into theatre, and they operated on me for about 7.5 hours. So when I came through, I remember being in this, they'd given me my own room in the hospital, and I was just waking up in the middle of the night in this room all on my own. And funny enough, that was quiet. That was lovely and quiet and peaceful. But I was just kind of it was a very surreal state because I was all on my own in this hospital room, and I just had this incredible experience. But at the same time, I was feeling heavy from the anaesthetic, and I couldn't move. You know, I couldn't move a thing, and I was laid up with all these tubes and stuff. But inside, I was just raring to go. I was just thinking, I've got to get out there and tell the world exactly what awaits us all. You know, on the other side. You know, it's like we're all we never talk about death. No one talks about it, you know. And I think everyone's got to understand that it's not a taboo subject. Sorry, it's something that we should still feel now very passionately that it's something that we should all address. You know, it's going to happen to us all. We're all going to die at some point. Let's face it. You know, so we should be a little bit more open to discussing it. So yeah. Yeah. So that was it. So my enthusiasm was very running throughout my whole soul.
I guess that a word that we can use. I love enthusiasm. I'm an English nut. In fact, I'm a best-selling author and I'm an author. And I failed English 4 times. That's why I quit school. I failed typing twice. But I loved the English language. My editor, God bless her beautiful soul, and she was a freaking nut. She was what we call a bag lady. In fact, if there was ever to be a beautiful bag lady who did it very well and poetically, it would be Stella Steele. I love words, and you used the word. The word I want to use is. You said enthusiastic. The word I want to use is you were, and it fleeted. Passionate, charged, full of fire, completely just full of fire.
Absolutely, that's it. Yeah. So the first thing I wanted to do was record this because I was just so scared that I was going to lose it all, which of course I never have done. But at that point, I thought I've got to paint this. I've got to. Well, first of all, I said to my sister, she came in to see me the very first night, and I remember she was like chatting to me very quietly, and just she was there with a friend, and they were about to leave, and she said, "Look, is there anything I can get you?" And I said, "Yeah, can you get me like a small sketch pad, like a little one, you know, about A5 size, and a pencil?" And she went, "Okay." She was like, wondered why I was asking for that, but she got it. She brought it in the next day, and I remember getting the nurses to prop me up in the bed so that I could sketch out what I'd seen in this wonderful experience. And I've still got that sketch. You can barely see it because it was just I was so weak at the time. And it's basically sketching out what the very first painting that I did, which you just
Were
put
you,
up very kindly.
my bro? Were you astonished? In other words, I think I just need to get a pencil and paper, and you start doing this thing, and you're going, "Oh my God, what is this pictograms? This coding, this light code?" In other words, are you astonishing yourself? What the frick is happening?
I knew straight away that something really amazing had happened, and I felt like I was still connected to the other side. I felt like I got this kind of cord that was still connecting me there with all this energy. So everything that was happening, there were new sensations going on. That I felt like I was a new me. But I just went along with it because I didn't question it because obviously something really powerful had just happened. So there was, it's interesting because people who came in to see me, my family and friends, were really shocked, because they'd come up from London and what have you, and they'd come in and see me. And they would go, "Wow, you look amazing." And everyone was saying, "You're just kind of glowing, you got this energy. You just like," one of my friends said, "You look animated," It's just like, and it was bizarre. But this is because I was just still charged with all this fire, as you put it, and the energy. And so everything that happened, I didn't question. So I straight away, I thought, when I get out of hospital, as soon as I'm well enough, even though I couldn't move at that point, I'm going to do a big canvas. I'm going to paint this on a really big piece of canvas because I want everyone to see this, and it's got to be great because it was great what I just saw. So, and I didn't doubt myself, even though I'd done nothing like that before. I thought, I'm going to do it. It's fine. I didn't question it. So yeah, so that was the plan. So straight from the off was to paint. Yeah. So
Are you aware? Are you aware of that young lady, that when she was like 6, 7, whatever years old, she didn't die, but or maybe she did, whoever, but you will know who I'm talking about. This young girl
I
that
do,
she
yeah.
is so aware of the other side that she
Mm.
paints this amazing picture of Christ.
Yeah. I
And
know they're great, aren't they?
do you know her name? Do you know her name?
I don't know her name, but
But you know who I'm
I've
speaking
I've
of,
been
yeah?
sent her work. People have sent, look at these, yeah, and I'm afraid I can't remember her name, but I can remember the paintings really well because
Would
they're
you
so.
say that the representation of her heart that she is creating is representative of that place?
Well, what I would say is what happened straight away. I thought I know what's going on with her. It's happened the same with me. That she's channeling energy into to create those paintings because that's exactly what happens with me. Everything I've done on my paintings and my music, it's not just me actually doing those paintings. I'm channeling ideas that are being given to me from the other side to be able to help them actually end up on a piece of canvas. And so that young girl was doing the same. She was channeling into where, wherever she'd been and whatever she was connecting with, and doing those remarkable paintings. So yeah, it's. I mean, I saw another one actually when I was saying to you when I came out of hospital. I was just about Raymond Moody. I remember the first thing I saw when I went online was a young girl, very young. She was only like sort of about 6 or 7. Had a near-death experience, and she'd done like a crayon sort of felt tip or a marker pen sort of image of what she'd seen, and it was just remarkable because it was just like a stick sort of girl laid out on a stick table with 4 legs, with this blue sheet over her body, just like a square blue, almost the same color that I'd seen. And then 3 figures. One stood almost in the same positions as I saw, right at her right feet, and then 2 either side with their hands out over her body. And then this kind of like looked like an ice cream cone, sort of like flying through the sky. And it was like, wow, that's just like everything I went through and saw just encompassed into this little girl's image. And it made me cry with absolute sort of like, wow, look at that. That's incredible. I remember calling my sister in because I was recuperating at their house, and I said, come and look at this. And by then I'd already started doing my painting, and she just went, oh my God, that's your painting. It's just like, I know. And so that was a moment of affirmation to see this beautiful young, girl had done this illustration that was very similar to what I painted. Yeah. So yeah, so channeling. This is what happens. This is it's a very very strong sort of energy. Very this still helps me now, and I'm very aware of channeling now. So I know that whatever I'm doing, that it's I'm channeling even with promoting the book and stuff like that. There's ideas coming through. I can feel them. Can feel that you're helping me along with my journey and stuff. So.
Everyone, welcome to Center of Light. My name is Keith Anthony Blanchard. Tonight I'm speaking with my brand new, well, actually, it's beyond brand new, my brand new, in this sense of the word, friend, David Ditchfield. And we're speaking about his new book and his powerful experience to the other side. I am now posting, which I just did, links to my brother's pages. So make a hell of a noise, heaven of a noise, stomp all over his work. This is just truly a beautiful experience for me, sir. It reminds me of what I already, quote, claim I know. Keith's a good boy, right? It validates me. It says, you've done something correct. Keep moving that direction. That's what it's like for me. I love the fact that your music is called the Divine Light, Center of Light. It's truly, and that thing that we call the Divine Light or Center of Light or God is not something that is apart from us. We have to choose to be a part of it. Would that be correct for you, not only in this new awakened David Ditchfield self, but was that what it was like for you, that it's me? And to me, right now in this moment, some of those attributes and those adjectives you used to describe that experience for yourself is what you see as beautiful. So when I go there, or whoever goes there, whatever's beautiful to me or to whoever is simply going to say, this is how much I love you by giving you to the nth degree of this very said thing. Would that be true?
Yeah. Okay, sorry, can you? I'm not quite with you on the question. Can you just say it again? Sorry, or clarify it a bit more.
My point is, when we get into that place for you, the very things that you called beautiful, those things that stepped up for you and you were just so enamored with it,
Mm.
do you think that when we find those things that we love, when we move into that space, we simply get validated through pictures, images, so that we can be validated in some way. In other words, some people talk about very high buildings, 10 times the height of any building on earth, and they're made out of crystal or glass. And some people talk
Mm.
about mountains that are so tall.
Yeah.
So for you, it was those things that you see as beautiful. In other words, God's grace says, this is really what
Right.
you're right.
Yeah. Okay. I get what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, because obviously every near-death experience account does differ. I mean, there's a lot of similarities because I mean I've spoken to other people who have had NDEs since well within the last year really since I've been doing interviews. You know, I've met quite a few, and it's amazing because you know, we'll chat, we'll be interviewing and stuff like this, and then we go offline afterwards, and we end up talking for about a good half hour, saying, "Did you feel this? Oh yeah, I felt that too. Yeah. Oh, when I was in the hospital, yeah, I felt all those things you're talking about." So it's like you're part of this club. So there's a lot of things that are incredibly similar, but you know, what people experience does differ. Some people go into different stages, and they see, as you say, these cities of light. I've heard about that. Uh, I guess from my point of view, the way I feel it is the near death experience I had. I feel that I'd learned what I needed to know while I was there, and that I'm still learning now, if you like. I'm still gaining knowledge. I'm still sort of getting messages through from the other side that help me on a day-to-day basis. And also, I started going for spiritual healing, which happened to me. I realized that lots of things happen that you're kind of guided after your NDE to keep you on that path. So I was guided to the spiritualist church. This is just in the town where I live now. And while I was there, I discovered that they did spiritual healing, and that they could see I was pretty banged up at the time. I got loads of castings all over me, and they said you could do some healing. I said, yeah, great. So I'll come along, and I still go now. It's fantastic. And when I go, I make connections there. Some of the healers are mediums, and they'll send message. They'll get messages through from the other side, just short ones, and they'll talk and they'll say, "Oh, I was picking up this, I was picking up that," And so I'm guided an awful lot by going and connecting through there, and so I'm still learning, as I say, I'm still learning
So David,
day by
is
day.
I got your bullet point questions, and I get those things because it's stimulating. So in the bullet point questions, I want to combine two of them, which is prayer real, and why did
Mm.
David Ditchfield come back?
Yeah, prayer is very real, and I can tell you for why. It's interesting because I remember. Well, here's a lovely story actually. As the train had moved on, as I said, and carried on down the track, because nobody had realised that the driver didn't know what had happened, and he carried on for a good few miles until my friend Anna managed to stop the train. She found like a ticket inspector or whatever, and he ran through and told the driver. So she said that she told me afterwards that the train was just stopped in the middle of the countryside, and it was just stood, and then it just stayed there. And it was a packed commuter train; everyone was going to work. And she said that she fully believed that I hadn't survived. She ran and saw me go under. She ran to the window, saw me get pulled under. She said, "There's no way he could have survived it." So she turned around to the whole carriage and said, "Look," she was very distraught, obviously, and distressed, and said, "Would you mind if we say a prayer for my friend?" And she said, then this woman stepped forward and said, "Look, I'm a Christian. Would you like me to take the prayers?" She said, "That'd be great." So she said, this woman just took these really beautiful prayers for me. And the whole carriage just laid down their laptops and their newspapers and prayed. And I felt that power. I felt that energy coming from those people. But not only that, I remember my mother saying that there's some of the churches in the surrounding villages were all praying for me, all these different congregations, because I was all over the local news that had been this guy had gone under a train. It was on the TV, so everyone was praying for me, and I felt that energy was really lifting me, and I thought, wow, prayer really does work. It works. So I firmly believe that. I use it a lot now. If anybody gets in touch with me or whatever, or I hear of someone that's in a pretty bad way, say somebody's very severely ill or just had an accident, I say, look, yeah, I'm going to send some prayers out, and I just concentrate very hard on sending those prayers out, and I get other people who are spiritual that I've now met since to come together and say, look, can you send some distant healing prayers out for this person? And because I firmly believe it, and I've seen people who got back to me and said that was amazing, my friends, I can't believe her young son is recovering, or what have you. That's incredible. So it does work. Yeah.
So what are people around you before experience, after experience? Let's say those truly closest to you. Here's David. Experience happens. Dragged into a freaking train. Oh my God. Woo! Woo!
Yeah.
And then post-experience, I'm sure that because of your tribe, your network, your closest net friends, even in your presence, even if you don't ever open your mouth, just the person you are now, as opposed to the person you, has to have such an amazing, profound effect on these people that gives them it's like a language that's an unspoken language that you have shifted to this place. Of course, knowing your story of what happened sort of helps, but it's not necessary nor required, because it's just saying, I died and this place exists. That just that is just truly so powerful.
Well, it is very powerful, because I know that when I do talk about it, that most people are very interested to hear about it. Even people that I don't think are going to be interested. I remember one of the first interviews I did was a radio interview, and it was like a drive time show, and I first went on there, and I thought, oh, this is a terrible mistake, because the guy he was a lovely guy actually, but he was just doing his job, and he was kind of going, yeah, straight after this break, we're going to be talking to David Ditchfield. He went under a train. He had a near-death experience. It was kind of like, I just thought, oh, no, this is going just like. But interestingly enough, once I started talking and telling him the story, that he just kind of went. There was a silence afterwards, and he said, "Look, we've got to go to the break, but this is great. I want to keep talking. Can you come back after the break?" I said, yeah, sure. And we carried on talking. And he turned around. He said, look, I'm a journalist. I'm supposed to actually cut in here and just pull this apart. He said, but I can't, because I'm just totally gripped by it. It's amazing.
That's exactly what I was saying about you earlier. You're not just supplying words and ideas and possibilities. There is truly something about you that is... There's, in fact, like when you were in that experience, time didn't exist because your focus wasn't on it. And this experience that I'm having with you, there's no part of me that's thinking that you're full of shit. It just doesn't exist. It's like I'm hearing, wow, because being a musician, there's a cadence, there's a tone, there's a song, there's a rhythm. There is something that is unspokenly consistent. And it doesn't require a musician to hear it or a rocket scientist to understand it. There's something that is so natural. Here's a stupid question. Would you change anything?
No, you're not the first to say that at all. And the answer is no, not a single thing. Of course.
Here's the other question. Would you do it again?
Let's hope not, eh? Let's hope not. I mean, I certainly don't want to. I don't really want to have to do it again, though, because my work's already cut out for me. I'm it's part of my day-to-day life, and has been ever since. And I'm here to do this work now. I feel not work, but yes, I mean, I'm creating these paintings and the music because I want to try and get the message across to as many people.
So why did you come back? Why did you come back?
Why did I come back? Well, because it was a big question.
Was it your choice? Was it your choice, an agreement, or was it simply your choice? I'm sure it always is, which seems to be. Was it simply your honest, this is my choice, or was there a shake hands deal, or why did you come back?
Yeah, it was an unspoken agreement, and that's what I feel. Because, as I say, when I came back, there was no sense of no, I don't want to be back here. There was a part of me that was like thinking, well, I'm back, but wow, I've got so much to tell. So I feel that there was a sense that they sent me back, um, because they clearly knew that I wanted to express what had happened to me in every way possible through my creative soul, and that's what I've been doing. And so yeah, that's what I feel. My path is to try and get this message across. Well, it's been through art and music so far, but now it's through a book. So there's a whole new medium here that I'm totally unqualified in being able to do. I'm dyslexic, so I never thought I'd be able to write a book, but it's done and it's coming out. So there's a story. So
So this is yet to be released.
that's right. Yeah, it's coming out in June 26th.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, you and I are in queue because I'm right after you in July. Dave, I would like to ask you a question. You had mentioned, or when you were talking about these paintings, and I put them on the screen. You talked about the portal, the opening, the gate. I call it the God gate, the womb, the cosmic womb, whatever, the place where divine fire sits. Your grandmother's bosom and teat, that place we wanted to suckle and right? But I don't remember that you ever really spoke about the picture that we would call the Christed one, be it Jesus, be it a Buddha.
Yeah.
So tell me, and you did also speak about the women, the feminine energy with the lay of hands and so forth, but you didn't really speak about this particular Jesus looking image.
Okay.
What is that? Why is that? And why does it
Okay.
look like
Now,
that?
now that came about when I was talking about earlier about spiritual healing. When I first started going for those spiritual healing sessions, um, there was an awful lot of stuff coming through. I was seeing beautiful light when I was being nothing like the kind of light I'd seen on the other side. But when I was getting the healing, there was lovely light energy coming through. So that was happening, and then one session, I actually saw an image of Christ, and I thought, wow. But I didn't think anything of it. And then when I came through from the end of that session of healing, the one of the clairvoyant healers turned around to me and said, "David, I just saw Christ was with you when I was healing you." Then I was going, "No way!" I said, "Look, I just saw that as well," and we just both held each other's hands. I thought that's incredible. So I thought I've got to go and paint this, and paint exactly how I'd seen him, and I'd seen this image of Christ, not the usual one where he's hanging from a cross and the worst point in his life, but looking really healthy and just floating in the sky. And so I wanted to try and paint him floating above the local river where I live, because I wanted to show that he was here with me while I was recovering. But not only that, the halo, if you look at the halo that I painted there, that is some of those images of light that I was seeing in the healing session. So I wanted to, rather than just paint the usual halo that he gets, he normally just gets like a little white circle going around. I thought, no, this is powerful energy. I'm going to give him loads of energy. So that's what he's got. So he's got those images of light that I was seeing in the healing sessions as his halo. So there he is. So so that's my nod to Christ, because it was like an acknowledgement that that Christ
I
is
love
there.
that you say that you painted this different halo. Do you think
Yeah,
when Jesus Christ, whatever the principle is that comes back in any embodiment, you think they want to talk about crucifixion?
exactly. That's it. I mean, I
What the
know
fuck
that
is
the
that?
crucifixion is very interesting, but it's just like we're there. That's the only image we ever see of Christ is the crucifixion, or well, generally speaking, anyway. So, not in my case. I thought, no, it's not. That's not what I saw. He wasn't. He wasn't hanging from a cross when I saw him. So that's how he looked, healthy and very well.
I've had such an amazing, wonderful time, and thank you for being the catalyst to opening up my heart to what it's validated my nighttime excursions, my soul experiences, my meditations, all of my years of learning. even though that's outside knowledge, it has been a very divine key, a divine light to open
Yeah.
up this particular stargate. Would you say that even though you had the experiences you had, that if you wanted at any moment, you could have leaned your attention towards a certain something or other? And miraculously, to use a word, a holy instant, bang, you could have had what you wanted. Did you feel that sort of liberation and power and all those other beautiful ideas I can sit here and paint?
It's it's really oh, I don't know. The,
It's almost blasphemous to try to convey this, isn't it?
yeah, it's just I just feel really personally, I feel blessed, obviously, that I'm getting this energy coming through. I mean, the music, for example. I mean, that was like, for me, writing music for an orchestra was just like, in itself, that was like an incredible moment, as you just described it, because it was just like, wow. The first time I walked into the rehearsal, and I was nervous, obviously, because, coming from my background, a working class background, an orchestra is a very sort of educated middle class background, and I walked in and saw this orchestra, and it's like, and I remember the conductor telling me, and said, "Oh, the composer has just arrived." I was thinking, composer, and I remember just standing there, and he said, "Do you want to say a few words about your piece, David?" And I bottled it. I said, "No, no, that's fine. You just go ahead and rehearse." He said, "No, come on." So I went, "Okay." And you know what? It's interesting. I stood there in front of these guys, and I told them the story, because I said this is about my near-death experience, and I described it. And all these guys were asking me questions about it. And as soon as I started talking, this that moment that you talked about came. It wasn't like a moment of power. It was just a moment of like energy that gave me confidence to be able to convey something to what I figured would normally be out of my comfort zone. And then when they performed it, it was like, wow, it's just like this three-dimensional. Everything that I'd felt and seen was just coming through music. But yourself, you're a musician. It was just incredible just to hear like this beautiful wall of sound coming from an orchestra. Because I'd written this on a cheap little synthesizer that I pulled out of my cupboard, because I used to be a guitarist, but I
You
couldn't play
literally
guitar.
understood the musical staff theory. When I say theory, it may not be mathematical, but you understood this in an intuitive way that you truly transcribed this shit,
Yeah.
beauty, and freaking, and they just actually reproduced it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was my brother. My brother did, as I say, I got this cheap little synthesizer, and I was recording everything just onto a cassette tape. Believe it or not, that's all I got at that stage. And then my brother said, "Look, I've got this package. It's like an app, that you can use. Then you can play your keyboard into your laptop, and then it will actually convey those notes into musical score. But it's all very basic. And then obviously I had to get that sort of all scored up, and I had to understand different instruments. I was hearing sounds. I was thinking that sounds like something like a horn, a distant horn. And then I realized that was a French horn. So I learned all the different instruments that the orchestra used and put them all in there. It was just, at the end of the day, it's like baking a pie or whatever. It's an ingredient, and you just that ingredient's got to go. That's good. We need more of that. And yeah, and it all happened. And it could have all gone terribly wrong. That first rehearsal was very nerve-wracking, because it may not have sounded as I'd wanted in my head, but it did. It sounded just like I'd imagined it in my head, and more. So, and it worked, and it's great, because I remember going to the actual concert, and as I say, it sold out 2 weeks in advance, and that's purely because the energy that I was getting through, they were helping me. They were making sure that concert was going to happen, that I was going to pull it off, and that not only that there was people came who I'd never met before in my life, who came up to me afterwards saying, "Oh, I read about your story in the local paper, and I had something similar myself," or people who were really fascinated by it all. So it was just great, and yeah. Wonderful night.
Two questions for you. One question, one comment. Who is that behind you?
What, in the painting?
Yes.
Oh
Is
yeah,
that
that's
it's
the
a picture
Christ
of
one.
Christ that
That's
you
Christ.
drew?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Christ. Yeah, he's up there at the moment. They
I know
rotate.
that.
I get all sorts of different ones up on the wall, but he happens to be there at this
Do you
moment in
have an
time.
affinity? Oh, we all do, but I'm not trying to be personal, but I now know that because you've been to the quote other side, which is all around us anyway. You see loved ones are flocking all around you. We just can't see it. But do you have a Christ, a Jesus, Christianity about you? And you probably have other faiths as well, because truth is truth, no matter where it comes from. But is Jesus personally one of your favorite kind of
It's
ideas?
well, it's not it's not it's one of my personal favorite ideas, but there's an affinity there that wasn't there before. For example, Easter time, even though I turned around earlier saying about them being on the cross is how we all remember him, but when Easter comes, I just there's an energy that I really sense that is more powerful than Christmas for me. And I just and it was a very surreal one this year because Easter happened right in the thick of the coronavirus, the COVID-19, and so it's kind of strange that it happened because normally, obviously, in this country when it happens, we all stop for an Easter holiday, but everyone was already holidaying at home anyway. So it's almost like Easter didn't happen for everyone else, but for me, it felt more personal this year because I felt it was almost like, well, no one else is really talking about Easter, but you know what? I can still feel your energy very much around me at this point. So yeah, so there is an affinity there within. Yeah,
Wow, bro, I really enjoyed my time with you. Thank you.
me too. Yeah, it's
Sincerely.
been
It's
fantastic.
just a be. It's like it's a comfort. It's like again. It's like your grandmother's bosom. It's just like you have given me and us more of like a goose down feather blanket. Some place that we can rest.
Yeah.
That like you said earlier, when we're born, you're already dying. Once you are born, you are on the way out. Is there anything you would like to leave us with? Everyone, I have been posting throughout the night links to my guest tonight,
Mm.
David Ditchfield. We're speaking about Shine On, his new book, soon to be released, about his near death experience. It's strange. The universe has such a sense of humor that it takes death to really understand life. Right? What would you like to leave us with, my friend? Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Well, just two things actually. Well, the first one is obviously is for me is to say is don't fear death because it's not the end. It's not like our souls just switch off like a light bulb. Our bodies maybe, but our souls continue. It's just the next part of the journey, and it really is. And there's nothing to fear. It's something to delight. When it happens. But the other thing is, it's just now in the here and now, what's going on with the whole COVID-19 thing is just really embrace this moment. It's a golden opportunity for us all to be able to almost go through what I did, and that is just stop, and get in touch with your higher conscience, high consciousness, I should say, and embrace it because it's there within us all. You don't have to have a life-threatening accident or a near-death experience to get in touch with that. It's all there, and we've all got our own guides. All of us, our own personal guides. So yeah, get in touch with them.
Would you say that, be it Christian, Buddhist, Jewish, Islam, Muslim, that's all actually, it's beautiful, a way to celebrate a path,
Yeah,
but supremely, absolutely, it's just noise. There's only one way into the garden. It's to be blissful because you can, not because of. Do those things that you love. Just get out of the noise of everything that we see happening out here and
yeah.
back to the poise of that which is truly existing in here. It's just simply a
Mm.
state of being. It's not a place, but it's more of a space. Would you say that, my friend?
Absolutely, that's really well put. Yeah, yeah. I totally agree with you on that. That's fantastic.
Please keep us posted. New books coming out in June.
Yeah, June the 26th on O Books. It's available for pre-order now. If people want to pre-order it, you just go onto Amazon and
And it's
click
in
on
those
there.
links I posted. And final question. How was your dreamscape?
How is my dreamscape?
How's your dreams?
Well, well, very vivid, yeah. But a lot of that was to do with the post-traumatic stress, I think.
Well,
So I
meaning,
went
are
through.
you finding some relief in moving into, like ayahuasca, when you do the first? experience on ayahuasca, it's dark. The second one is a little gray. And then the last one's all light. So now that you're moving, I'm assuming, because of our dialogue, post-traumatic, post-traumatic, or your
Sure.
experiences like your musical talents and your artistic talents, or your dream talents now becoming, what's the word I'm looking
I
for?
see what you mean. Gotcha.
Lucid,
Yeah,
hyper
yeah.
lucid, to where you returning to the garden gate where you were.
Exactly. Sorry, I misunderstood your
That's okay.
question
That's
there.
good.
Yeah. I absolutely. I very much feel that, and I'm feeling it even more now. I'm not trying to say this to promote the book, but the truth is that since this book has suddenly come out into the air, as it were, I feel even closer to it because I'm talking about it more with people like you, and it's becoming even more three-dimensional, and so yeah, it's I know that all my spirit guides and everybody that's on the other side are there with me, and they're helping me through with this, and they're saying, "Come on, yeah." They're encouraging me. They're really pleased. That's how it feels. So there's a definite sense of that. Yeah,
Maybe in the near future, week before, whatever, closer to your book release date, we do another show.
that'd
Get
be
the engine,
fantastic.
fired up, and maybe you can, not that you aren't already, can kind of hyper focus on those dreams. So, because we got another interview coming, I'd love to
Sure.
know about your dream experiences, because I will tell you one motivating factor, my friend. One reason I do what I do so passionately and diligently every day of my life, all day long until I go to bed, from the time I wake up, is because I want those experiences. I want to go home. I'm not loathing this place. I love this place. I
Yeah,
want
me
to go
too.
back into a space of absolute integration. So I, as a teacher, am to express to others how to become the embodiment of heaven on earth. In fact, you, my friend, thank you for joining me on Center of Light Radio. Shine on, all you beautiful, sexy human souls. It's because you have the opportunity to be on the earth and to experience that level of natural divinity in all of us, that Christ principle, if you will, the Buddhic principle, the whatever, and then yet bring that back. What a blessing.
Oh, thank you.
God bless you, bro.
Beautiful. God bless you as well. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Everyone, my brother tonight, Mr. David Ditchfield, shine on. His life ending, yet beginning experience. It's just nuts in a beautiful way. In fact, I think it's wonderful that sometimes we go nuts because what we call normal has not been working. Hello, quarantine. My name is Keith Anthony Blanchard, Center of Light Radio. I've been doing this for 10 years. Over these 10 years, I've achieved the listening audience of 5 million people. I was with Inception Radio Network for many years. Point is, it's not about the numbers. Number one matters. Does number one matter to you? No one can answer that question but your beautiful self. You're loved beyond measure.